We're going to get into a full example that uses some unit testing and shows how we can kind of build some different objects to accomplish our purposes for a simple shopping list. So we're going to start off with a shopping list item, and you can see the shopping list item is going to have an initializer, and we're going to set a name, a quantity, and a category. And we have quantity equals 1 and category is blank, just in case we want to build this object without those particular parameters. We're also going to have a checked property that's going to identify whether or not we've checked this off. And you can kind of see how this is going to show up in our output when we actually print this out. We're either going to have it checked off or we're going to have a blank box there. And we're going to just output all of the different properties here. Next, this is going to be where a lot of the work happens in our shopping list class. We're going to have an initializer with a name, and we're going to initialize the items in our class as a dictionary. We're going to implement our special length method so that if we want to know how many items are in our list, we can use this, and this is going to add up all of the different categories so that we can return that. Then we can add an item to our list, and this is just going to defer to this add item method, which is going to add the object. It's going to find the category and put it into that list, and if there's not a list, it'll create a new list for that particular category. We're going to retrieve the items for a particular category. We're going to be able to retrieve a sorted list of the categories that are in there, and then we can check the item. We can retrieve an item. So check the item, we'll just check it off, and retrieve the item will give us the item back. And then for remove item, we're going to look at each one of these items in the categories, and we're going to remove it. Now, since we can have items with the same name, you can see here there's nothing that's really going to prevent us from doing that. We probably shouldn't break here, so we should probably remove that, because if we break, then we'll only remove one item at a time. So probably good to have multiple items removed there. And then we're going to have some unit tests that will allow us to test the functionality of our list. So we're going to import unit test, and this is going to allow us to build the list. We can see here we're going to build this list, and then we'll use this in each one of our testing methods. So to use a unit test, we're going to start with a class that is a unit test case, and then we're going to test various functionality here. So here we're going to add to the list, and we can see we're already doing this, building the list, but then we're going to assert that it's actually got 4 items in it since we added 4. And then we're going to check the list, so we're going to check something off and make sure that that item is checked. And then we're going to test categories. So we're going to, based on all the things we added, we want to make sure that we have these categories at the end. So we're going to check that here. And then we're going to check removing. So we're going to add a bunch of items, and then we're going to remove this particular item. And if we run all of these, let's run them one by one here. And then if we run the unit test, you'll see we should get some results here that say that our tests were okay. Now, the purpose of unit testing is not really to test your code once. The purpose of unit testing is to continue to test your code. So as you modify things and you change things, you can continue to run the unit tests. That way you can be sure that your functionality still operates as you would expect. So the shopping list program, we're going to use some helper functions to make this a little bit simpler. So one of the things we're going to do is we're going to have a get int input function that will allow us to retrieve integers and limit that to only in input. And you can see we're using try and except to make sure that happens. We're going to have, so let's run that, and then we're going to have a get input based on some valid inputs. So this one will allow us to only accept input and continue to prompt the user until something comes in one of the items in this particular, one of this dictionary, and then that's going to retrieve the resulting value here. And we also have an option to clean the input so that we can be a little bit more flexible with what we expect the user to enter. So sometimes we want that, sometimes we want an exact match. And then we're going to show that we're going to get category input, so we're going to show the user all the categories that are there, and we'll ask the user to enter one of those, and we'll use that get input function just the same way. But we want it to be the exact category match, because people might enter 2 categories that have maybe different lettering or something. So we're going to make that an exact match. Same with get item input. We're going to list all the items in a category, and we're going to ask the user to enter one. Now, we have a function to add item for the user that's going to prompt and get all of those outputs or get all of these inputs and then add an item. We're going to have a function for viewing the length. We'll also have one for viewing categories and then viewing the items in a category. Lastly, we'll have functions for removing an item and checking the item. And these handle all the user input that's necessary for that. And the reason why we're doing all of that, let's run each one of these one by one here. So we'll run, run. And then when we get to our actual program is very simple. We're basically presenting the user with a set of options. We're going to let the user be very flexible in the input. They can type in 1, or they can type in 1 period, or they can type out the word 1. And for exit, they can type exit, quit, done, or any of the options for 7. In this way, we get the input from the user based on that list. And then every time the user enters something, we just call out to a function so that it's pretty clear what our program is doing. So if we want to add, say, carrots, let's say we need 7 carrots, and we'll put those in produce. And if we want to add bananas, we'll say 5 bananas, and we'll put those in produce. And let's say we want to add golden grams, and we'll say we want 1 box, and that's going to be in cereal. Now we could say, let's view the categories. We'll view the categories. We have cereal and produce. Let's say we want to see those produce values. So let's type in produce, and you can see here, there's our list. So each one of these options will execute some part of our program, and it gives us a way to kind of have a very clear program, but also something where most of the functionality is unit tested. So let's go ahead and exit. There we go. All right, so there's a complete program example. It's always good to have unit tests for your code. That way you can be sure as you continue to modify it, it'll work. But thank you for watching.